Hello there everyone and welcome to Altenew Academy. So today I'm going to be sharing this beautiful one layer card which features a couple of different gradient effects, one using stencils and then another one using stamps as well. So to start with, I am going to be using a panel which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm firstly going to be using the masks from the Floral Minimalism Mask Stencil. And I am just going to line these up with the stamps to make sure that they are the right way. So once I'm happy with that, I can then add a little bit of glue behind these. I do use the Altenew tape glue because it kind of gives me a temporary addition to these ones. And I'm just going to move these around onto my panel to make sure I am happy with the overall effect. I do move them around quite a little bit just to make sure that I've got them in the place where I want them to be. So once I'm happy with that, I can then add some masking tape around the outside edge. I'm just using some washi tape and I'm going in about 3/4 of an inch to give me a nice white border around this card. And I'm just going to add it to all of the 4 sides, going over those little masks that we have in the center. I'm then going to take the stripe builder stencil. Now this is a little bit jiggly, so what I've done is I've added some temporary adhesive behind this one so it sticks onto my panel. To make sure it's nicely stuck, I'm just going to use some scrap paper over the top just to make sure it's nicely adhered. I can then add some colour between these little images, so between the stencil of the stripes itself and over the top of those mask stencils that we have temporarily in place on the panel. So the colour that I'm using for this one is the Dark Night. I really wanted a dark background on this one, and I do find that using the darker colour first, if you are doing stripes, is really going to help you because you're not going to go over it with the second colour because this one is stronger. So that's why I'm going with my darker colour first, and I just really love this Dark Night colour. It's one of my favourite navies that Altenew have come out with, and I don't think that I'm ever going to fall out of love with it. So once I'm happy with the amount of ink that I'm putting down, I'm just going to keep moving all along the panel until it's nicely covered and I'm in all of those little spaces that are there. I can then remove the stencil, and I'm then going to take the Nimbus ink and go into those spaces that haven't been covered, so the ones that were covered by the stripe stencil. And because I'm using a shade lighter, even though I'm going over that Nimbus, it's not going to really destroy it or change it in any way because that is a lot darker than the one that I'm putting down. And I did put a lot of that Dark Night down to give me that really great navy shade. So once I'm finished with that, I can then remove all of the pieces of masking tape around the edge. So I am leaving my little masks on the flowers and leaves into place at the minute, and I'm just being really gentle removing these masking tape. You want to kind of keep it really close to the card while you do this, just to make sure that you don't rip any of that cardstock that we have around the outside edge. So once all that's done, I can then move on to the little images that we have on the inside of this panel. I am going to be using the stencil from the mask stencil this time. I'm going to remove the mask from the place that it's in. I'm then going to take a little eraser and just to get rid of any adhesive that is there. So you may not need to do that, but I did need to. I'm then going to take a little mini ink blending tool and some Forest Glades, and I'm going to add some of that ink through the stencil onto the coordinating bit of the mask stencil that has been removed. Hopefully that makes sense. So you can see I'm just going to remove the mask. I'm then going to place the stencil round the image and then add some colour using the little mini ink blending tool and the ink that I have there. So for my leaves, I have gone for the Forest Glades for all 3 of them. I'm then going to do exactly the same technique for the flowers. So I'm going to remove the mask, then get rid of any adhesive that is there. And I'm then going to place the stencil around the coordinating masked image. And then I'm going to add some colour through that using a mini ink blending tool. And for these ones, I'm going to be using the Coral Bliss ink. So using the stencil for our base layer of these flowers, it is giving us a beautiful gradient effect, especially if you add more of the ink to the base of the flower or the base of the leaf. That's going to give you a darker point, and then as you pull the ink out or blend it out, it's going to be lighter and lighter. So that's going to give you a really beautiful gradient effect using this stencil. So once I've finished with all of the flowers, I'm then going to add in the centers. And now I'm just going to add these in normally. There are a number of centers on the stamp set and I'm just going to be using those. For the centers, I am using the pumpkin pie ink, and I did put the wrong center on that one at the bottom. So you will see me clean this one off, get the next center that's supposed to go in the tulip shaped flower, and it doesn't fit in that smaller one. But as you can see, even though I got that wrong at the bottom, you can't really tell because we didn't use the stamp, so we can definitely get away with getting it a little bit wrong at this point. So once I've done that, I'm just going to keep going with all of the centers, just adding them in with that beautiful pumpkin pie ink. You are going to want an ink that is going to cover that blending that we have with the flowers. Once I'm done with that, I'm then going to use the rock and roll technique on the second layer of the flowers, and I'm just going to buff that out a little bit using a mini ink blending tool, and you can see that we're going to then get another gradient effect using the stamp. So I'm just adding the ink to the base of the leaf and then pulling that out a little bit with the blending tool to give me that really beautiful gradient effect that kind of blends off to nothing at the top of the stamp. I really do love this technique. It gives a really subtle look, but it is adding lots of detail and interest too. Just to finish off, I'm going to add a sentiment. I'm going to use the one from the Floral Minimalism stamp set. Once that's done, I can then add this panel to a card base. You could have definitely done this straight onto a card base to make a proper one layer card, but I decided to use the panel first because I always use panels that way. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. We really do hope you like the card. If you do create a card inspired by this, it'd be great if you do share because we'd love to see. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and we'll see you again really, really soon. Bye-bye.